My next guest is the incumbent Ward 4 candidate for your Norfolk City Council. Thad, thanks for making time to be here today.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. I'm Zach Miller with my co-host Vance. Good
to meet you.
Nice.
And we are touching base with Thad Murren today. Thad, we kind of like to start with a little bit background on you. You originally from Norfolk?
We moved here when I was 3.
3?
So technically, yes.
Technically, most of your life.
Yeah.
So where were you born?
In Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Oh, okay.
My whole family's from up there, and we migrated down here.
Oh.
What brought you guys down here? Do you know?
My dad was a roofing product salesman for commercial roofing products, and he had the opportunity to buy a company here in Norfolk, and he took it, and been here ever since.
That's great. That's awesome. Did you go to Norfolk High?
I went to Norfolk High.
Norfolk High. Awesome.
Yep, graduated in 89.
Great. It's kind of been a diverse group of Norfolk Catholic and Norfolk High on the podcast so far. What do you do for a living, Thad?
I actually took over our commercial roofing company, Western Roofing, 8 years ago. So I've been doing that ever since, and I like it.
Awesome. Have you ran previously or served on any other boards, committees, or public office?
Not public office. I was the president of Pheasants Forever, the local chapter here in Norfolk, for 10 years, and been with that group for probably 17 years. Great bunch of people. Give back to the community, give back to the kids is a big thing for us. I'm on a lot of other boards now, or a few more boards since I got involved with the city council. Did a lot with schools, my kids, things like that growing up.
Great. We've been talking with some other people, and I kind of want to bring it up now since we're already on the topic. Have you seen like a lack of people joining any of the organizations or things like that lately?
I'm starting to see a older group, meaning myself. I'm 54 years old, so
yeah.
I see those people involved. It's trying to get the younger generations, that early 30s and into that early 20s, to get involved. If they don't have a parent or a sister or brother involved, it's getting harder. And I understand that with kids, you're busier than heck with kids. So that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed in this community, is just trying to get the new evolution of the next generation involved in what we're doing.
Yeah, because eventually you guys are all going to be gone, and then
yes,
and then what are we stuck with? I mean, we don't have anybody ready to step in, so that's kind of one thing that I've noticed in our generation is a lot less people doing that type of stuff.
And I also think there's a lot more groups to get involved with than there was when I was in my 20s and in my early 30s. A lot more diversity in the community, and so you have to pick and choose because you only have so much time in a day.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we have a little bit of oversaturation in that department then.
Correct.
Yeah, that, and you brought up a lot of them help with kids, and that could be a problem in the future too. If there's no organizations to help, underprivileged kids or just help kids in general, that could be a problem too, right?
Yeah, my mom was involved for 10 or 15 years with, I can't remember it. I should know this. With the program at the high school, with the mentoring program.
Teammates.
And so I got to watch her help 30 young ladies go through their high school careers and then build upon that. And she still is in contact with them today. And I think the oldest one is 27.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's really cool. They stay
awesome,
in contact.
actually.
So yeah, it's really neat to watch them kids that need to have that security and some adulthood put in their lives and be able to accept that. And I think that's a great program for them to be able to do that and help the schools.
I would agree. Definitely agree with that. What about our community is special to you?
Just the camaraderie that you see, and the positivity that I see from the folks, and it doesn't matter what ward you live in, what part of the town, even outside of the town. It's just to be able to watch these people come in and come together, whether it's for a health-related reason, a family-related reason, a work reason, community reason. It's just neat to have that, and you don't see that in a lot of other communities where I talk to my friends that went to high school with, and they've moved away.
It seems to be a running theme is the camaraderie and the cohesiveness of the community here.
It's the community. I mean, I know that you're answering the question with the same word, but it's the community, meaning the people. Yeah. Like that's the key of the region that I enjoy. That's why I've moved away a couple times. I always came back.
Yeah, I moved away for 5 years, and then was dating my wife now, and we talked about where to go. She's a small town girl from Wisner, and she's like, "Where are we going? What are we doing?" And so I had an opportunity to go to Sioux Falls and actually work for a big roofing company, and so I went up there, and we decided it was too big. Now you look at it, and we're like, "Oh, it's really big."
Right. Yeah.
But it was fun to do that and to see and venture out. I'd been to different towns and stuff, but never lived in them. So it was neat to be able to do that and then be able to come back and bring some of that back with me, but also prove that.
That's a really big feather in the cap for Northeast Nebraska and Norfolk, because I personally love Sioux Falls. I love going to Sioux Falls. I think it's a great town, great region, great area. So that's awesome that we're right on par and maybe even better.
Yeah. And the neat thing is I'm talking to people, after you're out of school for 30 some years, you reconnect with people that you were friends with. And now they want to come back here because they're tired of the big city life. They're tired of the traveling. They're tired of driving 45 minutes to work. And their kids actually want to follow them because they see what our community does and what our school systems have. Yeah. They want to have that security for them and bring them back here. So I hope that keeps going.
Right. I would completely agree with that. Why are you running for office again?
Well, good question. I started this 13 years ago with a phone call from a couple individuals, businessmen in town, that said there was going to be an opening. Eric Wilson was moving out of the ward, so there was an opening there. So I contacted Mayor Sue at the time, and I said, "What's this all entitled?" She's like, "Well, show up for a few meetings, have some discussions, work on some budget issues, about what you do at work." Okay, sounds simple enough. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. My dad was on the planning commission for 28 years, so I kind of had somewhat what went on in city government. Always been intrigued by it, but so I interviewed. There was 5 of us, and I was chosen by the mayor at the time, and Sue helped guide me through that. Ironic story, my first night that I actually sat up on the podium, we fired the city administrator.
Oh, goodness. That's start out with a bang.
Trial by fire.
Yeah,
Let's go.
That was an experience that I'll never forget. And
just feed you to the wolves on the first day.
Kind of did one of them, what am I doing here? And if I was able to, I probably would have left that night. I abstained from everything because I had no idea what was going on, really. But to watch that fireball battle behind the doors was an experience in itself.
I'm sure it was. Especially just getting in there.
Correct.
That's crazy. What are some highlights that make Norfolk stand out to
you? I think the big thing is our overall dimension of how the community is laid out. Some people laugh at me when I say this, but I always say the south end of Norfolk, which is my ward, is the starting point of the community. That's where everything originated from. And everything is growing in a direction, and that has evolved over the years of going north, going east, going west, and still going south. And I think that's what's really neat is we have some difficulties with the way our river runs through our community, but we've been able to find those obstacles and move beyond them and grow our community. And I think that's one of the most special things that is here.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to look at it. What do you feel Norfolk could improve on?
One is our highway system. It's something that I've heard since I was a little boy about going to South Dakota for every holiday. How do we get to South Dakota? How do we get to South? You can only go there one way, straight north. So I've always wanted and have heard from older generations that if we had 4-lane going east and a 4-lane going north and south, our town would just explode. We don't have an interstate, but I also think what's special about it is we are also located off the main thoroughfare of what I call the world. And we're able to build within all the communities around us what we have here today. And without that, we couldn't do that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how our bedroom communities are super important to Norfolk's thriving, business and things like that.
Most certainly, talking about, most certainly.
We talked about the highway system a little bit last week. We kind of had a little bit of a debate on it.
Yeah.
And, some people see it, or Vance kind of saw it as a way of people leaving, right?
I'm not a huge fan on the 4-lane to Omaha. I feel like that takes away from Norfolk. I've just always felt that it's not bringing people from that direction this way. Maybe to West Point, but West Point you're halfway, so they're going to go either direction. It doesn't really matter. But beyond that, I didn't see a lot of extra coming this direction. I did see. So the conversation that was brought up to me was like, maybe it's easier to live here if it's easier to get to the airport in a quicker amount of time. So maybe I never really thought about that reason for it. But, going to your side of it, or where you're talking going to South Dakota, Sioux City it's not really that far. It's a quick drive, but it would be awesome to have to me going to Sioux City, going to Sioux Falls or something that goes at that northeastern side of move, because really the Omaha, I mean, it's east, but it's 90% west is kind of what, or 75% or south.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's
east, but it's
thing about
75%
it is
south.
If you go 100 miles north and 80 miles south, you're on 4-lane on Highway 81.
Yeah.
Why has it never gotten to here with the manufacturing we have and the things like that? Why has it never happened?
And I said it might help keep people here. Was my side of the argument was that if it's easier to get to Omaha and places like that, people may not want to move. If it's only an hour commute or an hour 15,
that's true.
It would keep people in this community instead of wanting to move to Omaha because they don't want to make that commute all the time.
Yeah. But I see it as I can get to Omaha and get out faster and get home.
Right. What qualities and values make you an effective leader and decision maker?
I think I'm a really good listener. I try to let everybody give their opinion and then not correct them, but to inform them, right or wrong. I've learned a lot since starting this, is to listen and then to take that information and go back to staff and go back to the other councilmen and have the discussions on how we do this. How do we start this? How do we end this? How do we fix this? How do we grow? I think everything that has happened in the last 10 years, 12 years has been because of communication. I don't think I'm hard to deal with. I don't think I'm hard to talk to. I'm available. The wonderful cell phone has made me 24/7 in business and in life and in city. And that's fine. I mean, that's the way it has become. I'd rather just talk to people face to face, sit down and have the conversation. If I don't know, I'll go ask. I've looked pretty stupid at times going to different places and went, I don't know, but I will figure it out or get back to you with that. The crazy thing about with the city government is everybody always looks at the negative, and I try to be the most positive person that I can. With my family, I think I've instilled that in my kids, but I just think that people have to look at the positivity and then work on the negativity. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. A lot of people, and especially lately, focus on the negative sides of things instead of the positive on all aspects of life.
It just seems that it definitely seems like the negative, right or wrong, the negative just gets more play. Positive stuff doesn't get the play. Like people, and I don't know if that's we talk about it a lot. Like we'll look at posts on the exchange sites and stuff on Facebook. Yep. It's anything that gets the most engagement on anything is just negative stuff.
Yep.
It's not the good stuff. It's not the, hey, look at what happened here. Look what greatness happened. Look at this person doing this. Look at this person, what they sacrificed here, what they did here, blah, blah, blah. And going back to your like on a good leader thing, I love hearing people. I think I don't know is a massive quality that a leader needs to have. Instead of saying, giving me some bullshit. Cause I usually, a lot of people, not a lot. I hope most people generally, if they ask a question, they have an idea what the answer needs to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, when somebody's bullshitting you,
Yeah.
like, so if you just say, I don't know, most people are going to be like, as long as your I don't know isn't I don't know and I don't care. As long as if it's I don't know, I'm going to figure it out for you. I mean, to me, you get anybody that does that type of stuff. I respect them immensely for that. So
we see more respect for that than anything else. This table anyway. Yeah. If you say I don't know and go find the answer, I'd much rather have that than have you bullshit us.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with educated guesses, but let me know. Don't just like, oh no, this is how it is, blah blah blah. But I've done, and like you said, you learn every day. I learn something new every single day. It doesn't matter what it is. There's something that there's something I learned. I don't know anything.
And I love that. I mean, that's the thing is that's to be able to learn something and see how it develops, whether it's with your kids or whether it's in the community. It's just neat to see all that happen, and people work together to do the same venue to make things work.
Mm-hmm. And communication has been a running theme on these Meet the Candidate podcasts too, and you guys have all brought it up, which I think is a good thing. Communicate, like you guys are all available.
Yep.
If you got a problem, just communicate with your councilman.
Yep. And the craziest thing is, and I know I'm a councilman, so I think I have a little more repertoire to make the phone calls, but you can call down the city office anytime, 8 to 4:30.
Yep.
And very seldom I ever heard, I can't talk to you. I've seen staff come out of the back room in a meeting just to talk to somebody about a small detail. To them, it's a big thing, but to staff, it might not be, but they still spend the time to do it.
That's awesome.
That's good to hear. I like that.
It seems like the more we're going through this, I'm enjoying that we have a bunch of good people running to make Norfolk good. Yeah, it's what it seems like. So,
and I encourage it. I mean, I ran twice with nobody running against me.
Yeah, we talked about Zach is really big on that.
I don't like having any office have it just be one candidate.
And I even went out the last time and asked a couple of people, "Why don't
you run against me?"
And they're like, "Why? You're doing it." I'm like, "But it's not all just me. It needs to be." The first time I ran, after my 2-year obligation, there was 3 of us that ran. We had a debate. It was awesome. And I learned from them and they learned from me, and both of them were gals that were the sweetest people ever.
Yeah. That's what I think a lot of people are afraid, because everything comes, it's trickling from the top down, it seems like. So people are afraid because why risk my reputation? Because this person's going to attack me for blah, blah, blah. Well, if we can all agree on a civil discourse, we're not going to agree on everything. But me and Zach don't agree on 50% of the stuff we talk about.
I can kind of tell by the way you two look at each other once in a while. You're not married.
And we'll still have our disagreements, but it's a civil discourse, and we're gonna come to an understanding that we just both want what's good, and we're not gonna ad hominemly attack somebody. We're not gonna just go out of our way to attack somebody for no reason. So if we can all get to that point, maybe we can get more people involved, starting from the bottom up, and we could move that to the top side and then get away from this stuff.
I would love to see that happen. It would be, it takes about 2 years to understand how all this works.
Yeah. I
mean, I tell new councilmen that come in, be patient, but it takes 2 years. Mm-hmm. You think you got a ball on fire and you're going to go get it, and you're going to do all this change. It takes 2 years to understand why. And I'm still don't understand it all. When it comes to the finance part of it, if it wouldn't be for Randy Gates and Sheila, I would be lost, because they never understand how to say it in my layman's terms.
Yep. It's complicated stuff. We've been looking at some of it that Shane gave us a few things, and we've been looking online. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just, I can see now when you guys say it takes 2 years. Yeah. It definitely takes 2 years. And we talking about debates, we are in the process, as long as everybody's on board, doing a debate.
Okay.
That's our goal. We would want some.
Hopefully. Are you game for that?
I'm game for that.
Perfect.
Well, probably because we wouldn't do any of the 2-person, the ones that are moving on to November. We probably would do those later on in the summer.
Yeah, we'll do the mayors and then we'll do the councilmen later, since you guys all make it through.
Okay. So just don't cut into my fishing time.
We'll try not. We'll schedule it way.
We can do it. Maybe we'll do it on a pontoon
we'll
or
do
something.
We'll do it on the boat.
We can do that.
As long as we have power, we're good to go.
I can line that up.
Perfect. What are your thoughts on the Johnson's Park project with 65% of the project funded outside of the city? Do you think it was worth doing?
I think it was worth doing. The work that went into get the partnerships and how do we share the expense by not just all on the city taxpayers was a lot of hard work. Was actually a division of people, and I for the sake of me can't remember them all, but Daryl from Courtesy Ford was part of a group, and they probably started this 10, 12 years ago. Just having the conversation and starting to point around here and point around here and what could happen here and what could happen there. And it just grew. So I think it's really neat that that's how that all started. And those people carried that on and worked very hard at doing it. And it was a long process.
Sounds like it. I know spending that much money probably wasn't a quick process.
Correct.
Either.
Correct.
And obviously in hindsight now with the project going in at the corner there, the $32 million commercial project, corner of
in the Alco parking
lot. And so in hindsight, it kind of makes it, it's 2020.
Sure.
It was a good project to do with that coming in. So.
I think that the two projects are going to work well together. I don't think that was the initial look at it when this was started, but I think it's made things grow and develop out of it.
Definitely makes the project look better anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be something that is going to evolve over the years. It's not just going to be the park is done and city staff is going to take care of it and it's just going to move on. I think it's something that's going to evolve even greater. I know it's been a big nuisance to the people in the area. Some love it, some don't. Some are neutral on it. I've talked to quite a few of them folks over there, and I think that in the end, it'll be better for the school. It'll be better for the neighborhood. It'll clean things up the way it was. That river was, I can remember catfishing there when I was 12 years old. It was gross. It still was. So hopefully that cleans up the area and just promotes happiness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see that. As far as a nuisance, was it just the construction portion that was the nuisance or just?
I think the construction part of it is the biggest because it upped a lot of people's lives. It was quiet. Not much happened. You could hear the water run. And I think with all this construction taking as long as it has taken, that's what's been the whole big shakeup with it.
It destroys a little bit of peace.
Correct. I'm glad they are bringing some of it back to the way it was originally. By talking to some folks that they're passed away now, but older folks on what that park was. It's pretty amazing. Why the city auditorium was there, part of the downtown, and all that stuff. So it's kind of neat to see that history of it and bring some of that back. And hopefully everybody in Norfolk can enjoy that facility, not just the local neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're eventually going to put in like an amphitheater and all that in there, right?
Yep.
Is that something that was there previously?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a little cabin there.
Okay.
A little log cabin. And then down in the bottom, I'm trying to remember what they told me it was. They said people would come on Sundays in church, and then all the kids would run around and do all that, and it just brought the community together. And that's one of the things that I'm
kind of what parks are supposed to do, right?
Correct. And I want that more in the family. I heard you talk to Shane and you guys talked about cell phones and computers and all that kind of stuff. I do it because I have to do it. I don't do it because I want to do it. But I'm hoping that brings back. I mean, I can still remember being little. The big thing was we made fried chicken and then went up Skyview Park.
Yeah.
We got to play on the equipment. That was a big thing for us to do as kids. So I'm hoping that brings more families together, brings more community together to be involved in something like that.
That's kind of awesome. We've talked about it multiple times, maybe between this one and our other podcast too. I grew up every single Sunday. We had family dinner at my dad's mom and dad's house, my grandma and grandpa. Every Sunday, the cousins would go out, play football or run around in the lawn, do something in the hay mound or doing something, getting into trouble somewhere. But
correct.
And then
safe trouble.
Yeah, safe trouble. And then the parents, all my aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpa and everybody and we always had dinner.
Yep.
So, and that's that's something I've noticed. It doesn't really happen as much. And maybe that was we've talked about a lot, that there wasn't a lot of people that did stuff like that. But I grew up that way. So
yep, that's the way
and
I
then
grew
that's
up.
where, like you talk about on the park side, you can kind of get, if you don't have that meeting house, you could do that at a park.
Yep.
Yeah, we did that too, and I kind of think I'm trying to think of what maybe caused some of that to stop happening. I don't know if it's a lot of the sports activities that still happen on Sundays now too, or what.
Yeah, and there was when I was younger, especially at a really younger age. I mean, the only sports activities were NFL football.
Right.
That's it, and then Sunday golf.
Because I used to start in sports,
NASCAR.
At 4 years old, and it's a double day thing, and it's I think it's taken a lot of time away from the core family dinners and any family activities really.
Yeah, I got a lot of friends that, they go from wrestling into softball or into baseball or dance, and they're gone every single weekend, all weekend long with, their family. I guess it's family time, but it's a little bit different. Yeah,
but it's not always bringing in the grandparents.
You don't get the extended family.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Do you think any other parks need looked at besides that one?
Central Park is actually one that I really want to look at doing something more to it. Over the years, I've talked to new and past park staff about doing something. And one of the biggest problems is they got the beautiful trees there, and they're so big, they can't get green grass. So we talked, well, we'll just put water on it. And I said, well, you got to have sun to grow grass.
Yep.
So that's been something that has been, we're trying to figure that out, where to go, how to do that. The stage that's down there, once again, is probably, I want to say 25, 30 years old, at least. I remember it when I was young.
I was going to say, it's been there since
It's got the same handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the same railing around the backside.
Mm-hmm.
That something needs to be done with that. So, and I know there was a group that tried to do something a few years ago, but it was going to come down to the funding. The tennis courts are used. I know they're going to do more work on that. The mural on the side of it is beautiful. I just think we need to expand from that. They had that little swimming pool that was there. They took it out and put a splash pad in there. So there has been improvements.
Well, yeah, there was a little pool there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a little tiny pool. That was about
I kind of forgot about that.
And then the ADA came in and said, can't have that anymore.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's a lot of daycares that are around there that use that park. So once again, there's another tool that been able to grow things in the community, because you got the kids that are able to do something besides be in the house or be in a backyard. You can kind of let them free.
Mm-hmm. Is that considered your ward?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I think somebody else had brought up in Central Park too that the not just the grass being not green, but it has a lot of sandburs, weeds.
Texas sandburs.
Yeah. Okay.
Not sandburs.
Okay.
If you ride your bike through there, you will not come out the other end. So they've raked it, they've sprayed it, it's something that's hard to handle without having vegetation grow it off. So yeah, it's there's a lot of history there too. And then being across from the junior high, there's a lot of kids on the nice days that go over and wait for their parents so they don't have to wait in line.
Right.
So it's just an all-around community park and we just need to touch it up. Yeah,
I agree. I think I don't think all the parks need look. I mean, Skyview's still pretty good. I don't think it just got new equipment not that long ago. So, it's okay. But yeah, Central Park, and I can't think of too many other ones off the top of my head. But obviously those are good parks.
I'd like to see more also neighborhood parks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've been to that one that's
over here. I grew up in this.
I am now, but
well, whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking
park
about.
That's over there. I always thought that was neat. We had friends that lived up here, and
that went in when I
come
was
up there, and the kids always
younger.
played in there. And so I think we need to have more community parks just in the neighborhoods.
So, does the city control those little community parks or like neighborhood parks, or like what you're talking about over here? Or is that something like the homeowners association, something like that does?
I'm not positive, but I think that one was started as a homeowners thing, and then it turned into the city said
it's
they
now
take
a city
care
park.
of it. Yeah. So I don't think those would be big hurdles to cross. I mean, you don't need to have big elaborate playground equipment and all that stuff. Just have something for people to do, some sitting area.
Yeah, this one is definitely not. I mean, the volleyball court's kind of been rough. It's rough now, but it had a volleyball court, 4 basketball hoops, and playground equipment. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
When I was younger, and it's still nice. We still take the kids up there now, but yeah, it's interesting. Go have volleyball. Have a summer volleyball game and bring food out there, like you said. Just get everybody together. I like that. There could be more community parks. I never really.
They're a lot cheaper, a lot smaller footprint, and they're probably a little bit cheaper to maintain when you do community style parks, because they're you're not having this massive spread of real estate to take care of really.
Yep.
You could almost get some community buy-in. Or maybe some community members might want to come mow it, or just to keep it nice.
Yeah, even just a neighborhood. You know, there's always that one guy that likes to mow all summer long.
Right.
I love mowing once I start. Sometimes it's hard for me to get it.
Get started.
Like to get started to mow, but as soon as I'm mowing, I'm like, I'm in mowing mode. Let's go. Yeah. Let's do this.
Well, enables you to listen to podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Exactly.
Good little slip in there. That was nice. Do you still think that the ball fields out at Taha still need looked at?
100%. Once again, that has grown over the years. It used to be all softball. They did the church league softball. They did the 20-year-old softball. That's all that was going on there. They did a few kids softball games once in a while or summer overflow into there. But now I think with the way sports structure is set up in schools, clubs, all that, is they want facilities. I know that's hard for some to realize because they don't do that. For example, my daughter grew up playing soccer, 17 years of it. We went all over the United States playing soccer. Started out at the Y, moved up. We don't have any soccer fields in Norfolk. Some people did a project south of town. I'm sure everybody drives by and sees it.
Yeah.
That helped as far as the club team part, but it had nothing for the schools or just the regular group of people who want to go play soccer. I understand that. It's their property. It's their upkeep. They have to fund it through the club. I've pushed since I got on here to have something out at Tahoe for soccer. We got that floodplain area that's to the east end of the softball field, sorry. We just never had any funding. Things came and gone. So I think we need to have the diversity of the fields out there. We don't need probably 60 of them, but we need to have the diversity of some fields out there so people can enjoy being out there, whether it's family getting together and go and play on Sunday afternoon, or it's a league, or it's a youth division. We just have to have that with the proper facilities, like I guess Tahazuka was built, where if you look at the main part of the park, with the main cabin and then the 2 other smaller cabins next to the water, restrooms, they had a playground, they had a softball field. That's how that all started, and it grew from there. So we just need to keep that vision growing, and where that ends, I don't know.
When I was growing up playing club soccer, we played at the college.
Yep.
On those, now it's all dorms, I think now, but we used to play there.
I remember walking up and down the hills, chasing kids with balls.
But it's funny. I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I'm kind of surprised there aren't any soccer fields out there. And I guess so. The ones south of town aren't owned by this city, then I'm assuming.
No, they were privately owned.
So getting out to Taha, soccer fields have got to be one of the cheapest fields to probably put together, right? As far as
just need to be flat,
and you buy a couple of goals.
Or is it is softball or is soccer crowned, or is it
just a little bit? Yes,
it is crowned,
just
like
to get
a football
the water
field.
off. Yeah.
Okay.
They usually wear out in front of the goals, but
it's just interesting that I'm just surprised that nobody's ever brought that up, and I kind of just started thinking about that. I didn't know how much land was out there for sure.
The one main field is by the fire training center.
Mm-hmm.
There's a field behind there.
Okay.
There's actually 2, but a bigger one and a full-size one, and then a little one.
Interesting.
But other than that, it's been community-driven, where you have it by St. John's Church. They opened that up for a soccer field down there.
Yep, I remember that.
St. Paul's put soccer fields in just by the cemetery there, just to the west. And I think there's a couple other ones here in town too, but they're smaller. But
interesting.
Is there a way to do so? Like, you go back to the Oakland days where they did football and baseball in the same field. Is there a way to look into something like that? You could do both on. Granted, they're basically the same season, but if you had extras of one or the other, maybe you could.
I think the pitching mound would be the
difficult.
biggest problem, the hurdle of it. But like I know until we had the flood, it was really looked at what they were going to do out of Taha, but then FEMA came in and said how you can and can't develop things. Because that's in the flood plain.
Yeah.
Then that was kind of thing to stop that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you have a few sprinklers and things like that, the school is great at opening up their fields to the club. Shout out to them for that, for practices and things like that. I mean, they just go for it. I mean, they want to promote it and stuff like that. And then when we built the park downtown, kind of ironic story too. And if I lag on, tell me.
No, you're good.
With the football field and the water park and stuff, that was a neat fruition that happened in the community. The water park was a 9-year process. Started from the time it started till the time it started construction. I was involved in the very front end of that too on the committee, and it was neat watching how that came in. Yes, no, yes, no. The citizens spoke out and said, no, they don't want it. So it went away. Originally, it was going to go where FedEx is on Benjamin.
Oh, okay.
On the corner right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they pretty much had everything all settled and it was going to go. And then when it went to voters says, no, we don't want that. And the idea behind it was in between the west end of town, the south end of town, and the east side of town. It all came together in that intersection.
Corner.
We look back today, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. Correlating with the schools and with the clubs and the city, putting together to be able to put the football field in. Now today they want to take it out because
they want to take the turf out because
it causes too many injuries.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we have a facility where everyone in the sports complex can be there with the skate park and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are another visions that took a long time to come to fruition, but I just think it's neat that all happened.
That's super neat how that kind of went down. And I didn't realize that was where that was going to go. So now it's kind of interesting. So what I'm going to get into now is talking about Taha and the yes vote. What were your thoughts on having all that bundled together?
I was not in favor of it. And I will get people to say, well, you said yes. I did because most people that talked to me were sports complex people. The no people did not contact me much at all. But I also wanted to show that we were doing this, the voters to choose, not the council, because at that big a project, I didn't think that was up to us to make that decision or myself. So I think it was done right, but it was not done right.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I do like that you guys left it up to the citizens. I think that's an awesome thing. We don't agree that it should have all been together. Yep. Obviously, we don't like it. Even at the federal government level, we want things like they put 700 things in one bill, and it's like, well, okay, let's hold back a little, pump the brakes.
And there's 9 things that are underneath of there that you don't know about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless you read into it. I'm learning that.
Yeah. And I get there was only 5, whatever in this one, but still kind of. I bet it made people kind of a little skittish about how it was getting done or things like that too. And I'm sure most people were for most of the things on that, except for maybe one thing, which was probably the Aqua Center.
Indoor water park.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and I think that's going to evolve someday. Don't know when that'll happen, but I think that'll evolve someday to be something special in the community.
The indoor water park?
Indoor water park. Just like whether it's a city driven or community driven or a donor step up or whatever, however that happens, I think it's good that it happened the way it did, and now we can go back to the drawing board and have those discussions publicly, internally, community-wise, and then, like I said, it might take 20 years, but I think it'll turn out to be the best thing for the community. Yeah,
I could see it being a good thing. I think a lot of the pushback was where it was going to go, and I get that it needed to be close to the high school, probably to be utilized by the high school, but I know a lot of citizens in that area didn't want to be staring at a big old building out of their front yard. You know what I mean? So
I also think there's a huge there's a huge difference between a police station, a civil entity, and something that's only used by a percentage of people. So a police department's used by everybody. Like whether you ever have a interaction with them or not, they are used by you as a citizen every single time. So like that's what our government is meant to do, to protect us, to provide safety, whether it be a police department, fire department, whatever, water, sewer, that type of stuff. That's kind of what city government's for, not specifically for a recreation / school activity that even throughout a school is only used by a percentage. And so I see that as a huge difference. Like, so let's not bundle those two together.
I would love to see partnerships all put together for this also. Like we've done a lot of other projects, but I would like to see, and how that process is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it would be neat to have entities, schools, community, all have a say and also pay. That's my kind of my motto.
Can you repeat that again?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's I look at the water park and other stuff as, I think they're great things that like you said, it's going to be community driven. You got to have people, a donor or something. You got to raise some money. If you're the people using it, you're the people that want it. Let's show your massive commitment. And then the rest of us that are never, ever going to use it, then maybe we can pay some more, or we can jump behind you. We can add that extra push across the finish line type of deal.
I believe that. And I think the people will follow, kind of like the old thing, follow by example.
Yep.
So if we get that momentum going, and then same thing with Taha. I know that over the years organizations have paid to be out there. But if you look at the overall perspective, just from my perspective of seeing what I paid for my kids to do soccer and dance, I think the two most expensive sports and activities there is out there. But you have to pay to play.
Yeah.
And that's what our world's coming to. It used to be you just provided the services and they came and did it.
Yep.
Now it's turned into you got to pay to play.
It's a business.
Yep.
It's definitely a business for sure. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't want to get too much into the yes thing. We just always like bringing it up and seeing everybody's thoughts on it.
That's fair.
Yep. While we are developing downtown, do you feel that the rest of the town is getting overlooked? It's a tough question.
It is a tough question. I don't think so. You hear about it 24/7. I live down there. Every time I leave my house, I either got to go south to my office or I got to come through something to do with downtown. You see it.
Yep.
So I think it's always there, which is a great thing. I know I enjoy my time when I go down there with my family, and my wife and I'll go just for a quick supper. We'll go down there and eat. There's some entertainment value to it. But I think overall the community, we try to do something, every component of something. Does one or two get more attention than others? Yes. But I don't think if you look around at the developments that are going on and throughout the community, whether it's housing, apartments, commercial, people expanding their businesses, I think there's something happening all over the town, which is a great thing.
Yeah, just not all of them get the the view, the public view.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
and I think that's something that we as a city need to do a better job of.
Highlighting things.
Correct. Once again, I'm not a computer, understand a lot of that stuff, but I think we have some staff that are coming on and growing within the staff that we can utilize them just as much with the chambers, the private groups, and things like that. And that's, I just want to say one thing. I heard you guys talk about with Shane with groups and the diversity of groups we have and things like that. I hope I'm not getting off topic. But it's just very intriguing that you guys brought this up, that I see my generation involved in a lot of these groups, whether it's church, sports, entertainment, whatever kind of group it is, Lions Club, things like that. That's one of the biggest things that I need to get more people involved in.
Right.
both my kids came back. Both my daughters came back to Norfolk. Very fortunate. I just think that we need to get that class of kids involved in these groups, whether it's with mom or dad or aunt or uncle or grandma or grandpa. That way they can see how this operates and see how you learn from these people. And, I met some of my best friends being part of groups. Right. And these people will do anything for you.
Right. And we kind of spoke to that earlier. Do you think that, what do you think is a good way to get them involved then? As far as, do you think some of them think it's the old boys club and some of them maybe couldn't get involved and they're going to be shunned away? Or
there's a lot of that. I think they look at that I'm going to show up to a meeting and all I'm going to do is sit at a meeting and listen to a bunch of people talk. And then we'll do the 1 or 2 activities that we do out throughout the year, and that's it. We need to make it fun. You still need to conduct business, but you also have to have fun with it. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was involved with Pheasants Forever for a long time. We started, I think, 1986 is when it started in Norfolk. The chapter did. 14 years ago, I think it was 14 years ago, we started a youth mentor hunting program where we took kids that went through the youth hunts and went through the Game Fish and Parks safety program. And then we actually took them out hunting. And the first one we ever had was 14 miles south of town in a blizzard. And we were going to cancel it. And we gave the kids and the parents a choice. What do you want to do? And they're like, let's go. I'm like,
interesting.
You guys realize we're taking your kids into a blizzard.
Right.
And we had a barn that had
I'm all for hunting. You're not going to see me go do that shit. Promise you.
Trust me, some of those kids have come back and said, what were you thinking? But, we just need to get involved in that. And we need to start bringing our kids with us more. They don't follow like they used to. So we need to give them the opportunity to be able to see inside these organizations and grow them. We have some history here with some great organizations, and we just need to keep that going. But I know there's a lot more other organizations that have started within the community, which is great too. But we just need to get them involved and not utilize as much as their time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have to shorten the time frame a little bit.
Yeah, the commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. For sure. That's a good, kind of touching back on that, that's a good way to do that. Can you speak on future street plans that you may want to, many streets in Norfolk need attention? How will you fight for what you think needs to be done?
That's an everyday battle. We only have so much funding that goes around in a circle, and everybody thinks their ward is the most important ward there is, which should be.
We hear that often.
Yeah. So I think in the last 3 years, we've done a terrific job on trying to maintain and take care of the streets. Will has come into this program and completely changed it. I feel the vibe is better down at the street division. I think the processes that we do are better than we did in the past. Not saying anything against how the past was done, but that's how it was done. Brought new blood in, new ways to do it, new technologies. So we're seeing cost savings, but we're also seeing where we can expand to do more in an area than we normally did. They used to drive around with the backhoe and the payloader and scoop out the black into the hole and drove away. And 2 weeks later, it'd be blowed out. And the new products that they're using, that stays longer. And we need to be able to find that funding within the budget to do more of the upkeep maintenance part of it, which makes streets last longer.
Right. Yep. I think we also go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we've also discussed how some of the newer streets are getting put in are being done in a more correct way, I guess you want to call it, or more, I forget the word that was used. But like the streets up here aren't that old, and they're starting to kind of fall apart a little bit. Whereas if they would have been done well the first time,
better bases, better drainage,
right?
Things like that.
You spend more money on the front side, and it's cheaper on the back side,
right?
Every time, no matter what. Doesn't matter what you're building or what you're doing. You cut costs, you're going to pay for it in the back end.
And in the next generations, who pay for it? Not people that are there today.
Right.
Correct.
We're going to get a little bit into tax or increment financing. What are your thoughts on that?
Very complicated process. I'm educated on it, but I'm not the smartest person with it.
Yeah. We, it's not something we knew a lot about until coming into some of this, and Shane's pretty well versed in it, and he kind of gave us a whole spiel on it.
Yes.
And
we've learned a lot more in from everybody. We've learned a little bit from every person.
He's kind of my idol with this.
That's funny. Yeah. Our only question that we've asked this to everybody is, why should the city push to blight maybe a high value property just for TIF? I'm kind of against if it's a high value property, or if it's right next to
real estate or
high
location.
value real estate or location. Why would the city want to blight something like that?
The easiest answer is that's what the state statute reads.
That's what we keep hearing.
That's what we keep hearing.
It's not the right answer,
right?
But it's the easiest answer,
right?
And then I guess the other answer to it is, and I learned this right when it became a thing, is and I know people are tired of hearing this, but it's the only tool we have in the toolbox to be able to help developers get through a project.
And it's kind of a catch-22, right? A lot of people are going to say, well, what do we need to help this $1 billion or $1 million developer for? But it's also, well, we want the tax revenue in the city. So it's I'm coming more and more to kind of understand it. But
the hardest part of me explaining it and me understanding it is, if we don't do it here, somebody else is going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a terrible excuse. I know that. And I hear that all the time from people. But when big developers come into a community, they've already got 4 or 5 sites picked out. And if you don't have the other things that you have in the community, then they just go away.
Right.
I remember having talks way before when I first got involved in this city government, and developers would come in, and some of them last 10, 15 minutes. And they'd say, we need this, 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 and this. And we're like, well, we can give you 2 out of 7. You get them walk out. It was crazy. I was like, why did you even come here?
Right.
Why did you spend your time here? So I think we've leaned on that so hard because it's the big tool that we have to bring people and kickstart, I guess, development.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to come up with a way to put stipulations on it. And I know that's been a conversation that other councilmen and I have had. How we do that legally, binding, what's good, what's bad, I don't know that yet. But I think we do need to start putting that stipulation of something on there, that if you have a piece of land, you call it blighted, and there's just sacks blown around or tin can land there. That's not, to me. And then the blight thing is the frustrating part.
That's where everybody hates it, is that word blighted. Yeah. And it is. It's
a dirty word.
You just, and the whole, like, you can just show a picture. Like I can go make the best property. I can make the best property in the world look like shit by just just taking the right picture at the right time.
And the easiest property is, and maybe I shouldn't use examples, but maybe you can edit this out if you need to, is the livestock market.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
We can show you black and white there.
Yeah.
But when you talk about some of these other developments that's just green grass, it's pretty hard to do that.
Or crop ground.
Yep.
Exactly.
Crop ground should never, in my opinion, should never be blighted, because it's technically not blighted. Like, it's just crop ground. And I promise you, it's good enough to produce something at some point. And that's one of those things that's frustrating.
And those are the hard decisions that we've had to make, but I keep referring back to it, but it's the only tool that we had to get development started. And sometimes they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to start putting some kind of restrictions on how we view it as a city, and also put timeframes on it, on project development. It needs to be a timeline. I don't know if that's through a dollar amount that we're going to do this much, or I don't know how all that works yet.
I know it's and I've heard that argument a lot, and then it's a real argument. Like, if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, or if we don't take this grant, somebody else is going to take it. And logically in my brain, and I get it, I understand the concept, but it's always like, well, if everybody just says no, eventually that's got to stop. I mean, eventually somebody's got to say no. Like, you got to create that ripple effect somehow. Otherwise, we just keep going down this road, and then we're so far ahead of the horse that what are we going to do now? We're too far.
Takes us out too far,
and that's kind of and that's why I push. I understand stuff's going to happen, but I'm always going to push that way. Like, I understand the concept, but maybe we just say no. Like, just. And I know I'm
just
probably,
a couple times.
I maybe be a little harsh at times.
It can be, but that's okay.
But another thing that we need to do is, and opportunities like this that come along, is we need to have people call our legislation.
Yeah,
write a letter. It works, but we just need the masses to do that, not just 6 or 8 of us.
Which going into this, I didn't know it was a state setup that this is why it can be blighted and stuff. That we just found this out.
Yeah,
like, this is news. Like we said, we learn something every day, and going into these Meet the Candidates is the first time I really learned about that type of stuff, what their guidelines are. And
but we didn't realize it was all state state guidelines. And all you have to do is fit that box, and you could say yes or no. Yeah, and that was it.
They just have a piece of paper and they start checking boxes, and if you
interesting,
but it is good that you guys can vote on it and decide.
Yes,
you can still, even though you fit the criteria, you can still say no. So that is good to know.
And the other neat thing is there's a lot of projects that have happened in Norfolk. Once again, back to the positivity part of it, there's a lot of projects that have happened in Norfolk, Nebraska that did not use TIF.
Yeah.
And I thought it was neat. And until I did some digging, and I can actually give you this list. Of things that happened.
That didn't use TIF?
That didn't use TIF. Once again, people smarter than me put this together.
It's okay.
And I'm old and got glasses.
Yeah.
I mean, I can leave this with you guys, and you guys can look over or talk about it some other time. But
yeah, we might do like a wrap up episode at some point, because everybody's given us some piece of information, so we can always do a wrap up. And
if you got a couple quick ones, knock them out,
or something you can think off the top of your head. Yeah,
I did, but you guys put pressure on me.
Well, we can keep, and we brought up micro TIF recently too, and how that could be used for some of this housing issues. Because I think it was $350,000 for a project involving a single family residence structure, and then up to $1.5 million for a project involving a multifamily residential or commercial structure. We were just surprised to hear that hasn't been used a whole heck of a lot with the housing troubles.
Yeah, I think it's something we're all learning.
Mm-hmm.
The paperwork is like the 16th of how to use it. The time frame is really fast to get accepted, yes or no. So I think that's it's going to be something that's going to get bigger as we go on smaller projects.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully on a lot of rehab. With buildings or even with housing.
Right. That's why I was surprised that it hasn't been, to hear that it hasn't been used much yet. But
there's still some things that are in there, I think, that is hard for people to understand with it. And we need to do a better job of getting that word out on how to do this.
No, it's on the website.
Yeah. Well, it's on the website, but it's still hard to understand when you go through, read it all.
Yeah.
The stipulations, and I think it's a tool that not only young families can use to buy a structure and to redevelop it, fix it up their way, make it their house, but also improve the quality of what that house is. That's the biggest area that I see I want to happen. Smaller businesses, I think, is going to be hard sometimes to come up with, especially in the structure we're at, with what construction costs are today. To meet some of those criterias.
Okay.
But I mainly see it in the housing, single family, smaller houses. I know the first house I bought was over on 20th Avenue. It was 712 square feet. Made in World War II. It was a World War II house.
Oh.
All them cul-de-sacs down that street at the backside going to Catholic school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat. They're all made of 2x2 walls.
Really?
Yeah. My dad and I spent a summer taking walls down from the outside and putting 2x6s in, and then made the foundation.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize it until we started doing a project. I'm like, my wall's only 1.5 inches thick. No insulation.
Oh, goodness.
So I think it's those types of structures that can be utilized, and then not. I don't want to see them used for rentals.
Yeah.
I want to see them for owner occupied.
Yeah.
Housing.
Gotcha. So that'll be kind of tough to do with that then, because most people that will want to use that micro-TIF would want to probably revamp and rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have a lot of rentals in town, which is good, but I think we need to have that criteria. As when I was growing up, I rented. Very fortunate to have a realtor that took care of me and put me in contact with a person that we rented. I rented the little house behind Tasty Treat.
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month.
Oh, goodness.
Lived there for 2.5 years. When I moved out, a gentleman by the name of Louis Brogan, who owned Tasty Treat, handed me an envelope the day I moved out with all the money in it.
Really?
He goes, "Here's your down payment."
That is a really cool.
Insane.
That's a really cool thing.
Crazy.
Wow.
And
that's a really cool story.
Kind of things I want to see keep developing in the community.
Yeah.
Be
tough in today's market. But
Yeah. Yeah. But that's just really cool. It's a neat story that I'll always be grateful for him doing that for me.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing.
So Donna downtown at Divot, she did all that on her own.
Yep.
Got some amounts here. Midtown Health Center did a $500,000 renovation. Some of these go back a few years too.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I mean, there's just all kinds of projects. And I'll just try to flip through here once.
You're okay. We got time.
I'm just looking for the bigger amounts. A lot of stuff downtown has been redone, but that was remodel stuff.
Right.
Yeah. It's still awesome that people, and that's kind of my point is it can be done without it.
Like, right. I mean, that's kind of the point we're trying to make is that it can be done without it. And it's good to hear that you guys do at least take it into consideration every time and don't just, say yes to every time it comes through. It's got to make sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a hard decision. I mean,
of course it is.
It drags on us.
Yeah.
And we try to make, when things are really good, you don't think about that stuff.
Right.
When things start to change, then that becomes the hard question.
Right.
Especially when we're sitting on a 4 years of tough times. Yeah. Every penny counts, and it's only going to get worse for a while. Like everybody's going to be watching every single penny. So, and that's why it gets harsh. And I think I kind of grew up thinking, hey, our hands aren't on the wheels here. Like we're just kind of willy-nilly going about life right now. Maybe we need to let's start cracking down on some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're gonna be in for some hurt, or we won't be. Maybe our next generations are really going to be in for some.
We'll
pain.
be paying for it. Yep.
You okay to move on from Jeff then? Okay. We can always we can look at that list and we can bring some up in a wrap up show later and show all that. This is a state thing, but what are your thoughts on the Epic option?
I'm not very informed on it yet.
Yeah, we aren't quite yet either, but it's just we like to talk about it.
I think if we can somehow figure out a way to eliminate property taxes or lower them percentage wise, sorry.
You're okay.
That'd be a great thing because I think it would kickstart a lot of growth and a lot of make things easier for a lot of families, especially the younger generation and the generation, what I call, like me, the blue collar worker. It loosened things up for them, buy different homes, cars, be able to provide some more things for their families. I think that would be a big thing.
Yeah, and I know we noticed after the first few times looking at this that this would place no taxes on groceries. And Vance and I have talked about this, and he thinks that's where the taxes should go is on groceries because then everybody's paying for it. He can explain that.
I've always felt that way. I feel like the safest I'm for no taxes for anybody. Let's just zero tax. I'm going to lay all my cards out here. I think I've said it in every single podcast. Yeah. My version of government is one dude in a room doing nothing, like just nothing. You're just there. Yeah. I'll pay you $50,000 a year. That's all you get. Like, just don't do anything. I know that's it's infeasible, but so if we're going to make fair taxes, I look at it as let's try to find some way that everybody's paying something. Let's not just have 10% of the people paying 90% of the taxes. And a lot of people don't understand, like, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on the EPIC is eliminate property income and inheritance corporate taxes. A lot of people don't understand the corporate tax. Like they think that word is like, oh, we're giving tax breaks to corporate people as a bad thing. It's really not, because what happens is if you got people paying, if you're taxing the hell out of a corporate entity, they're just going to pass that on to you, the consumer, every single time. Why do you think McDonald's is so expensive right now? Like it's ridiculous. What you go to McDonald's now from what you went to 6 years ago, you're paying double the price almost on everything.
I think it's more than double, actually.
It's insane. And that's on everything. And then, you're also not paying income tax. So you have more money in your pocket to go spend on whatever you want to say. Like you talked about, we could buy a house. We can put a down payment. We're not renting anymore. And some people will always want to rent. They just like that flexibility. And we've talked about that on a lot of podcasts. Like people they want to do that. And that's fine. But there's a lot of people that want to own something, but they just can't. They're in this rental cycle that they can never get out of. So I think it would be awesome if we find a way, and then I'm not saying this is the perfect one or not, but it at least starts the conversation. Like, let's look at something. Let's look at something to make something a little fair. Let's lower property taxes. Let's lower income tax. Let's lower corporate taxes. Everybody gets a little bit of something, but anytime you say lower corporate taxes, it's the big bad companies out to get you.
They think everybody's just putting more money in their pocket.
They're going to pay their employees more. They're going to have cheaper commodities or cheaper whatever they're building or doing, whatever. It's going to be cheaper for them to produce it, therefore cheaper for them to sell it. And you already have more money in your pocket from your income on whatever you're doing. So I just love that. We talk about it a lot because it starts the conversation. I just love that this is being brought up to start a conversation. Right. Whether it's right or wrong, the voters will decide, but at least it starts a conversation somewhere.
Yeah. It's a starting point to be able to go further into the future.
Yeah.
And the only thing that worries me about is the grocery tax. Is there's a lot of people in the community that fight day to day to try to buy groceries, the necessities. And I know that there's help out there, and there's all those other things that go along with that. But how much is too much when it comes to it? Do you do it as a 7% tax? That's the part I don't understand. There's no.
It says a rate below 8% is what they're stating.
Well, this isn't
going to have groceries.
There's
We're
no
saying
groceries.
that groceries
if it
would
was
be
included,
a good.
But if you're getting rid of income tax, you can instead of paying 27% income tax, you could be paying 8% grocery tax.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, that's
kind of how the sales tax has worked out too for the community.
Yep.
Is if you've seen the projects that we've done with the sales tax, they pay off faster because everybody's paying it.
Yep. Everybody's paying it.
Not just Norfolk, not just one part of the group. It's everybody that comes to Norfolk.
Right. And not just homeowners and not just property owners and stuff like that.
So I think it's a good starting point to get us to something.
Yeah, it's not perfect.
We can debate on it. I want people to talk about it, and that's why we bring it up.
I would love to sit with some smarter people than I am and have the discussion to learn from it more.
Yeah. Yep.
And then bring in folks from the state level and hear what they have to say in a roundtable discussion even.
Yeah, I'm hoping we might be able to do something like that. We're working on it.
We're working on it.
That'd be very interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel about the addition to the Norfolk Police Division, adding about 8,000 square feet?
I think it needs to be done. It should have been done.
Another one of those loops. I think it would have been voted for if it was on its own.
On its own, sitting by itself.
Yep.
You could have put the other three over there and this one over here, and we would have. Yep. But those folks need it down there. Went probably 2 months ago. Walked through with Chief Miller. Did a walkthrough, and there were still things in there when I walked through there 20 years ago.
Probably in the same spot.
Green carpet. Stuff is packed everywhere. I have some safety issues I think it's there. Quality of workplace is there. I think they've done a great job in putting something together that fits on the footprint there and not making us go somewhere else and build. So they've done a great job, staff and chief, putting that together. I think they got the right people to come in and give them evaluation of how they did it. Once again, it's been a process. I know he has the plans ready to go. They're sitting on his desk. They're ready to go tomorrow. I hope we can get it done. I hope we can get it done sooner than later. Because like I said, the safety part of it is one thing that I've been huge on, fire and safety. Norfolk is one of the only towns that has its own paid fire department, ambulance service. Everything, a lot of other communities are volunteer or they pay for an ambulance service. Right. Didn't know that till I got involved with this. I feel safer. I've used them. I've used them, police and fire. So I think it's something that's very important to our community to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. We heard one while back when we had a packing plant that everything was going to go sideways. These folks kept everything going, good, bad, or indifferent. They kept things going. They kept the public informed. Those guys do a great job down there, and gals, keeping us safe and keeping us where we need to be, so we don't have a lot of violence in our community. I don't think we have a lot of it. We have some, but everybody has some. Yeah. But I think they do a good job at taking care of us. Right.
I know the committee did announce that they have stated that a 0.5% sales tax over 4 years would cover the budget on that. You think that's
I think it's relatively easy to do. I think we showed that with the library. Putting sunset clause on it, I think is very important.
Can you explain that for the listeners?
What that is when we make this ordinance and it's voted in, then we say that we need to collect this much revenue from the 0.5% sales tax. And then, like I said, Randy and Sheila, the smart people, put together that we need this much amount of time. And then at this time, we should have enough money to pay for it. And then we're able to just shut it off. It's just a switch. I think it's April or May. There's a certain time period of how long you have to run it. But I think it's a great option, and it shows people that we're not throwing their money away and throwing it around town.
Or over collecting or whatever, yeah. Okay.
Yes. Sunset clauses are something that doesn't happen at a federal and state level.
Right.
A lot of times. They leave it open. You'll vote on it thinking you're doing something good, and they'll just keep it's going on. So sunset clauses are huge, and anytime we get those, I'm all for it.
Right.
Have we had so what are we at now? Sales tax in Norfolk, do we know?
I'm not totally positive.
I'm not either.
Let me see if I can find it.
I just didn't know. I didn't know if something had fallen off and we had another 0.5% or whatever. We stay right around. It should be right around that 7% still, right?
Yeah,
I believe
we're
so.
at 7%
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that would put us at 7.5.
Yep, back to 7.5. We were at 7.5 before, and then now it's come back.
And what was that 7.5 for? That was for the water park and everything.
The library.
The library.
Yep.
Okay. So that just put us right back at 7.5.
Yep. That paid off, I think, in 4 and a third years or something like that. There's a little bit of money extra there because you have to stop it at a certain date and a certain time of the year.
Okay. Perfect. Can you give some thoughts into how the oversight of the North Fork Transit is being handled or was handled?
Was we got scammed, or they got scammed, I should say. It's not part of the city.
Right. But it did take a lot of city money.
It took a lot of city money. I'll start with this. I'm on the housing authority also. So I see a lot of these folks that need that service. They were devastated. They were calling daily down to the housing authority. I think they were calling every organization they could. What do I do? How do I do this? I need medication. I need to get to the doctor. I need to get to work. I need to get my kids at school. So I think it was a really big learning lesson for the community. It's terrible that it happened. I think now there's a lot more vision that's seen inside of what's going on with the board and with having Jared Valtis' company on board doing the books, keeping track of everything. It's very confusing how they get paid back. I didn't understand for a long time how it takes months to get paid for receipts that they haven't. So they have to have a starting balance to be able just to operate. I think it was too big. I think maybe it could grow someday more to that, where you're going to see them going away from, I don't need to drive, so I'll just use this service. And that's part of that is the big town living thinking. I wouldn't be used to doing that because I'm used to going where I want, when I want. But I think that there's a chance for that to the next generation to unify that local thing.
I would agree. There's a lot of younger or 16-year-old kids that aren't wanting to get their license.
Yep.
And they're not getting
even
it.
Around here.
Even around here, it's becoming more and more of a trend.
I couldn't wait to drive.
I know.
Me neither.
There's either they're scared or they just don't want to, or I don't know. But there's a lot more that aren't getting their license and don't drive. So it'd be, I mean, as you said, it could be a growing thing.
Yep.
So,
but I think it's going to come. We're taking care of it as a community. A lot of people stepped up and helped out through that whole process, and I think it's going to just evolve from there and at a slow process.
Mm-hmm.
Which we would have liked to see in the beginning. Start small, go big.
Right.
Yep. I don't think a lot of us
big,
understood it when they said they were going to do this.
Yeah.
Our vision was not exactly what they had. And then when it came out, you started seeing the big advertising, the big purple buses. I mean, if you would have kept them all white or black, I don't think you would have noticed them as much. But when you got Barney driving around,
yeah, a bunch of big purple buses with nobody in it, you see it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely a need for transportation in Norfolk, like you said. It's definitely a need. Do you know, and nobody has been able to answer this yet, do you know if Uber and Lyft are allowed in Norfolk?
What I was told today, and I called staff on this because I remember from your other podcast. All right. So I wanted to be the first one to answer this. There's no ordinance that says can or can't.
Okay.
I do know, I found out this afternoon that there was a white van and a black van, and I don't know the gentleman's name that had them, and he was doing it, and he just didn't have enough business.
Gotcha.
So he stopped doing it. But yeah, there's no ordinance that says you can or can't have that license in town. Or
I still think if
I don't
somebody
even think
it.
it's licensed.
Yeah.
I think you just start it.
I just didn't know I know some cities have ordinances against stuff like that. So I didn't know if we did because we never see them around.
Yeah.
But I figured with like not Uber Eats but DoorDash, I figured there wasn't probably an ordinance, but I didn't know if it was like you couldn't carry people type of thing, or if it was just food. But I really think if people just did it Thursday through Saturday night, they'd probably do fine.
Yeah. Well, even if you found out where the weddings were at.
That too. I remember when my daughter turned 17, one of my friends' kids got married that was older, and they paid her $100, and she drove my Suburban and stayed till the end of the wedding, and then drove 14 people home. Yeah.
See? She made $100. She's like, Dad, that was the easiest $100 I ever made.
Yeah, you could probably operate from 11 to like 2 a.m. Thursday through Saturday, and you'd probably make a killing.
That'd be past my bedtime, though. I can't stay up that late anymore.
Right. I'm gonna do one more question, then we might take a little quick break and then come back if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Do you feel we have an aging demographic, and how can we make sure we have population growth in the future?
I'll only say aging because of the age that my folks are at. That mid to late 70s. I think we have a lot of that. That's the bottom, middle end of the baby boomers, I think, when you just see the people that I see every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say we have not a aging, we have a moderate aging, I'll call it. And we have a diversity of ages within the community. And I think that we need to just keep growing that, because one thing that I'm seeing is you're seeing a lot of these generations that are my generation that are taking care of their folks instead of them going to nursing homes,
people are able-bodied longer.
Correct.
In my opinion.
And they're healthier. So they're able to live with son and daughter son-in-law and daughter, that type of thing. And one of the topics we'll get into later, but they're able to stay home move in with those younger generation and then help take care of their kids, which I think for me was great because my mom helped with my daughters.
Yeah.
Pick them up from school, that kind of thing, get them to appointments and things like that when my wife and I were working. And to watch those kids be able to develop, they were writing their name at a certain age. They were singing songs, doing ABC. So those life lessons they got from being with grandma or grandpa or a aunt or something like that, I think is huge to bring it in the community.
Right.
I definitely think that second removed generation is something I've benefited from as a child. Is like I had both sets of grandparents on both sides for most of my lifetime. So I spent a lot of time with both grandparents, both sets of grandparents. And you learn something from that generation that you don't really learn from your parents. Everybody fights your parents. That's what it is. Yeah. But you don't fight your grandparents. Nope. Nobody fights their grandparents.
They're the smartest people in the world.
Yeah, those are the ones that they tease or they spoil you. They do all that, and they teach you life lessons that, and it's a huge thing. So
without you even knowing that they're life lessons.
Yeah. You don't know their life lessons. I still I daily or, often, I think I learned this when I was 5, 6 years old out on Grandpa's farm, you know?
Yeah. I just became a grandpa 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. I'm excited to take that journey to the next level. And I bought her first fishing pole already. And my wife doesn't know that till we see this podcast, but I bought her first fishing pole already and she's ready to go. And that's what the kinds of things that I think of now is what my grandparents gave me. They lived 150 miles away, but every time you went there, I'd go spend a week, and everything you learn, you don't realize it.
You don't
those
notice
little things stay in your brain forever for life.
Right. Our biggest thing when we looked at this, we don't think there's an aging demographic problem, but it was the people having kids, the people under 5, the 7% number here, was kind of a big eye opener for us that we're not filling the population back up as people are aging out.
And I see it with my kids and the kids that are 4 or 5 years older than that, their friends and things, they're only having one child. They're not having 2 or 3. And I blame part of it on because they think of that big city thing. So they're older when they have kids, and then they only have one because they're doing so many other things.
Yep.
So I think that's a little bit of maybe some of that percentage in there. But then you're also seeing and I don't remember what generation that was. But they're having 2, 3 kids, 4 kids instead of just the 1 or 2. They're doing
the Gen Zs, the youngest ones.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems it's all cyclical. It all kind of goes around.
Come back.
Yeah. It'll come back.
But I mean, my mom was one of 8.
Right.
I'm one of 3.
He had 8 kids last week.
Yeah. Justin had 8 kids.
Norton. So I couldn't do it.
Good gracious.
We've only got 2. So
back then, but like when my mom was one of 8, and back in the days, there was a lot of those kids that had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids, but they worked on a farm. I mean, you had chores to do. You had to do this. I mean, you were working.
Free labor.
So
it's free labor. It was voluntold, as Vance would say.
I'm free labor, and there was only 3 of us.
Yeah. Still are.
I know, right? Still to this day. I was on the farm today.
Yep.
Wasn't getting paid nothing, but I was there.
You got to eat and sleep.
Yeah,
that's all. That's your payment.
Yeah.
That's what I always
paying
heard.
my debt back
forever.
I'll never be out of debt.
Yeah, my mom was one of 7, and my dad was one of 9.
Wow,
jeez,
big family.
Yeah,
and so then you look at my generation; it was just me and my sister.
Right.
And I have 7 cousins. That's it.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That is crazy to think about. Jeez.
And I've noticed that a lot. People that had big families, the next one's smaller. Next one, it may be up a little bit.
2 or 3 generations later, it kind of comes
right back in there.
Yeah.
What I think is funny in the conversation that I've had with my parents over the last few years, talking about my grandparents, is they always said they had nothing. They had nothing. They barely had enough food to eat. They were boiling potatoes and getting ham and trading this, trading that. Yep. And my dad was farmed out basically to aunts and uncles who had farms. My grandpa worked at Thad Murren for 50 years. But my dad was farmed out, in the summertime and then came back when school started.
Yeah.
And what he brought back with him was food.
Right. That's how he was
Quarter
paid.
of a beef. That's
food,
how he was paid. And
Right.
that paid for the family to eat.
Yep.
So that
But
whole,
now we have child labor laws, so
Correct.
you can't do that now.
Correct.
But I think, again, that's another thing that to me I understand the concept of it. But I mean, me working on a farm or working at a neighbor's farm or working on somebody's farm at 8, 9, 10 years old, you were never treated like crap. I mean, you worked. It was tough. Throwing bales, tough. Digging postal, stuff. You, again, goes into life lessons that you learn. It's a great thing, and it makes you a better person, in my opinion. I think we need more of that.
Agreed.
Or could you turn you the wrong way and be like, I'm never working a Labor Day in my life after this. I ain't doing it. Yeah, Screw these farms.
I quit mowing probably 15 years ago. Taught my daughters how to do it. That was the greatest thing in the world.
I can't wait for that day.
Once they got cell phones with headphones, they thought that was the coolest thing to be out there getting a tan and mowing.
Right.
So now I'm back to mowing again, and it's not any fun.
Did you at least get a rider?
No.
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm going to get goats.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You can talk to Cam. You can talk to Cam Meyer about some goats.
We might have to. We'll have to change the city ordinance a little bit, but yeah, I need goats.
Yeah, there you go. You okay with taking a quick pause right there?
Sure, it'd be great.
All right, we're back. Zach had to go do his normal 1 hour break.
I was going to say he's been gone for about an hour.
Yeah. It's been a while. Here we are.
Oh, my bad.
We just had a little. Our normal producer had we obviously had bad weather. Yeah. So he missed today, and he's got some family stuff he's got to take care of on that side.
Yeah,
so.
we forgot to tell you that. We usually have somebody sitting back there doing all that for us.
Yeah.
So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So I had to kind of jump back and forth tonight.
So Ryan had some power issues, and obviously with our ice storm and everything, hopefully everything's getting good now that the sun's out and the wind's dying down. So,
definitely.
But we can do. We're big boys.
Yeah, we're big boys. We can handle it
out.
I'm soft.
So kind of getting back into everything, how can Norfolk stay competitive with other communities for new business, innovation, public safety, and population size?
I think what the biggest thing is just get the word out. Whether it's through social media, the newspaper, the city end of it, we just need to advertise that we're here, and we're all welcome, everybody.
Gotcha. As some have said, we're open for business.
Correct.
Is that
that's a big saying that we hear around the city offices. Yes, we are open.
Yeah. What do you like about what has been done in Northeast Nebraska, and what do you feel can be done better? And the reason I talk about Northeast Nebraska is going back to the bedroom communities. Norfolk's kind of the hub for Battle Creek, Pierce, Stanton, Madison. Do you think about those other communities when deciding things for Norfolk?
Most certainly. So a long time ago, from a gentleman named John Doherty that ran Nucor. Got to know him very well through my father, through that generation in business. And he told me the only reason that Norfolk and Nucor is successful is because of the surrounding communities. Back then in the 70s, 80s, kids were coming off the farm. Once again, we talked about this a little bit, that there was multiple generations in the farming. So those people needed something to do. They wanted to stay local. They wanted to stay close to their families, help take care of their families. So they got jobs at Nucor, Bullcraft, Goodyear, 3M, those kind of things. So those opportunities opened up for those folks. Well, then they had kids. And then that next generation kind of took over for that. So we always need to take care of our bedroom community, because those are people that come and spend money in this community, work in our community, and live here. No matter what you say, and I hear this a lot, is Northeast, not Norfolk. And I think that's something that we all need to remind ourselves, that we have the ability to do more, but we can't do it without everybody else.
I like that.
I like that a lot. We say that all. We're a big proponent of the hub. Talking about the smaller communities around us and how we all support each other. Yep. So that's a big thing for us on this one.
Go
ahead.
One of the things that we do at our company is, and my dad taught me this a long time ago, is we don't do a per diem when we travel. The company just pays for it. And one thing that we do is when we work in a small community or outside the community, we're doing the work for a garage or a restaurant or downtown or whatever that is. And we go eat locally. We just don't go to the gas station and get that. And we go down and try to find the cafe. Truck breaks down. Hey, can you guys take care of this flat tire? So we try to give everything we can back to those communities when we're doing our projects, and be able to utilize the services they have locally. Might cost you a little bit more, but at least I feel that I'm giving something back to them, and those people have kept us in business for over 30 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. What were you going to add?
I was just going to say, with our dynamic, obviously, Zach's a Norfolk guy. Been born and raised in Battle Creek. I've lived in Norfolk a few times. But yeah, I'm huge on the Northeast Nebraska to me. It's the community of Northeast Nebraska is the way I've always felt. Like we're all in it together. I've always kind of felt that way. So.
And that's what's built our grassroots that are here is because of the outlanding communities. I mean, even as far away as O'Neill, Ainsworth, that area, Laurel. Yeah. Those people all have been somehow active here. And then you've seen a lot of people from Norfolk move out to those communities.
I can tell you, I drive from Battle Creek to I work at Norfolk Iron and Metal, but I drive there in the mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's people coming right behind me from past Battle Creek on 275. We're all coming in Norfolk. Yep. There's nobody going out. I mean, a few here and there, correct. But 90% of the traffic's heading east towards Norfolk. Line. Yeah. So
I don't think a lot of people really realize how much does. I mean, I always say doubles. Probably doesn't double, but it's a lot. A lot of people come to Norfolk during the day. Like, the population size of Norfolk increases significantly during the day.
From every direction, too.
From every direction, yep.
And we've got folks that go to Great Dane and Wayne, go down to Humphrey and work.
So, Columbus, there's BD down in Columbus. There's Balin down in Columbus. There's
definitely interesting. Transparency and accountability are very important. What steps would you take to make sure the public is informed?
I think we do a good job of it. We could do a better job, I think, but I think we do a good job of transparency and communication. One is, and I think other councilmen have said this, cell phones on 24/7. It's a tool. All our numbers are on the website. Most people that know me know how to get hold of me. If you don't, ask somebody or come down to the office. That office down there is open from 8 to 4:30 every day. Like I said earlier, I think people need to not be afraid to ask a question. I personally don't think you'll ever get laughed at. I don't think you'll be made fun of. I think there's opportunities, whatever question it is. Why? Educate me, please. I think we can find those answers. If we don't have it, we can set you up with the people that do. There's just different innovative ways to do the communication from what there used to be. You know, it used to be the phone on the side of the wall and you dialed it, and that's how you got your communication done. Like I said, I don't understand all this computer stuff and deal with all that every day, but I think it's something that we need to do a better job at getting out there. I don't know. I think you guys might have talked about it. I don't know if you did, but like if you have a pothole fix you need to have done, you can go on the website under the street division and you can type in your address, telephone number, and do all that. The responses that I've given, and I know I've told other people to do it, has been pretty much automatic. So those services are there. When you're doing in my construction world, we utilize some of the staff for some of the projects that we do to get testing done, to get inspections done on projects that I've been on. And those are a way of getting communication lines back out there. I think we need to do a little bit better job at that. I think we're Johnny on the spot when it comes to that, the inspection team for plumbing and electrical and that kind of thing. In most places, you have to make an appointment, and that appointment sometimes take up to 10 days in other communities. I think Norfolk's really good at doing that. We're just, if you need us, we'll be there. And just once again, and we go back to we're open for business. Well, as a councilman, I'm representing people in Ward 4. I'm available for comment. I've got probably 5 or 6 individuals that I have comments with all the time. Telephone calls, walk by my house. I'll walk by their house or something. I welcome more because it's fun to educate people on this stuff and to hear from them, from their point of views on what we do. And we don't hear enough of that. And that's sometimes frustrating for me as a councilman because we have to make decisions sitting up on Monday nights on that podium, and we hear little until there's a decision made. Then you hear all the negative.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to hear the positive and the negative, but beforehand. And I know it's the agenda doesn't come out till Thursday. It's hard for people to be able to read that and digest it and ask questions within those few days. But we're always willing to sit and listen to people, even if it's on a Sunday night.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't realize that the agenda is even sent out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's something you guys can learn.
It's on the
go on to the Norfolk, what is it? Norfolk, is that what it's called?
Yeah. I just type in Norfolk.
I lost it.
Not Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, Norfolk, Nebraska city. You can get there. And there's the minutes from all the meetings, there's everything's on there.
Yeah, right on the
All public
homepage
knowledge.
is the agenda is posted right there on the very front homepage when you just scroll down.
Yep.
Is there I guess I haven't been on there. Can you sign up to have that emailed to you is there a mailing list on that type of stuff? Does the city do that?
I do not know.
That'd be kind of
like a newsletter.
Yeah.
Type thing?
Newsletter. That'd be awesome if they sent you that.
Let me write that down.
Yeah, that might be a good one. If there's a way to, I don't know how that logistically, how that would go, but that would be kind of cool. Yeah, there's your citizens request. If it's just norfolkne.gov, and you can click on mayor and city council, and then on the left side you'll see all the minutes, the videos, city meetings, pretty much anything you want on there. All the phone numbers and emails for all the councilmen are on there too. I mean, just it's the site you can use. So
yeah, and a lot of us, I know that our city website is up there. A lot of us check it periodically, but we don't check it as much as we do as our work ones. But we do all check them. The emails. Yeah. But even a telephone call or a text, hey, call me.
That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Little thing, yeah. That's what I prefer is just, if you can send me a little text and say, hey, I got a question about this. This is so and so.
Call me back,
and that works great.
Definitely. Do you feel that Norfolk is heading in the right direction? And where do you see the city in 5 to 10 years?
I think we're headed in a good direction. Maybe not always the right direction, but we're headed in a good direction. And one of the things I think as our community evolves, we need to see some more industry come to town. I don't like to compare us to Columbus, but Columbus is very industrial heavy, and Norfolk is very retail sales heavy. So we need to just keep that mix going. We've grown it a lot, but I think we just need to keep that mix coming to fruition and have that balance of both for jobs and for community.
I like that. The industrial side obviously brings more family or more. It's a higher workforce, so therefore you get more citizens involved too. So
yes,
I definitely like that.
Yeah, it's a good all around. Like you said, balance is a key word we use on this podcast all the time. So good choice of words.
When you say in the right direction, it's subjective. So everybody's gonna have a different view of what the right direction is. But as long as it's a good direction, we can all agree. Good is good.
Let's go. Be positive about it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Those are kind of all the questions we had from our side of things. We're going to move into some listener questions. These were all pulled verbatim off of social media sites, things like that. So these are all coming from listeners that listen to the podcast, and we'll kind of jump into those if you're all right with that.
Neat. Yeah.
What do you see as the greatest need for Norfolk?
Positivity.
And communication, probably.
And communication. And then I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing, take care of our citizens, each other, not just from the city standpoint, but from the standpoint of take care of each other. I know we've talked about that a little bit in the past, but neighbors helping neighbors type thing. Having the wards, I'll call it, take care of each other, help each other out, but also just helping out each other as we go through the community, whether it's with a flat tire, snow removal, carrying groceries in the house, just those type of things is very important to me. Is to help each other.
Makes sense. I like that answer.
Really answers the question. But
that's okay. Are we missing the mark when it comes to caring for citizens?
And right now at the police station, yes. I'll bring that up. But no, I don't think that we're missing the big objective of community and how to take care of what we do from the city standpoint of it. Is there any more part of that question? I know that wasn't very good.
I know it's okay. It's a good. I mean, they're hard questions because they're very broad. Yeah. So it's kind of for you to take into interpretation of how the question kind of, because we don't want to put words in their mouth. Yeah. Sure. With the questions.
Kind of feel like it's kind of a perception going back into the downtown being over analyzed and nothing else is, or getting all the attention nothing else is kind of one of those perception things, and that's the way kind of I look at that. Yep. When I listen to that question, that's what I think is the perception that are we missing the mark somewhere? Are we missing
just one spot?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Apartment needs were a big push for Norfolk, but the cost of rent for a 600 square foot apartment is $1,100. Do you see a way to fix the housing problem?
What I've learned in the past is the more availability you have drives the cost down, whether it's with homes, rentals, that kind of thing. So
it just goes back to classic supply and demand.
Yeah. You see what's happening in bigger communities in Nebraska, Omaha and the Lincoln. You used to be able to live there cheaper than you could live in Norfolk. And then that demand changed, and now it's cheaper. It goes back and forth. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if we have no housing, no places for people to live, people still coming into the community, people moving up in society, then we need to have not excess, but the available, but I don't want to say that, the available spaces for people to be able to develop with moving up and down and that kind of thing. Gotcha. Another thing is, after talking to some banker friends of mine, you talk about debt, and it's what I hear from those folks is there's a lot of people that can afford a house, but they can't get the loan because of credit card debt, car debt, that type of thing. So that in society, I think needs to change a little bit. I think it is changing to different generations, but I know when I was young and got that first credit card and the checking account, that I was free, white, and 21, and
let's go,
let's do it all. Fun. I don't care. That type of, and I think that is changing. Younger kids are more responsible today than I was in my generation. So I think that that's part of it, is people are getting out of debt. And once we get that society figured out, we made it too easy to have a card and slide it.
Yeah.
I still remember when my kids were little and they thought that was the greatest thing in the world when you went into Target or Walmart and had that magic card. We can get whatever we want. Well, no, you can't. You got to pay that back.
That's why some kids don't know what $1 is nowadays too. That's the value of $1, I should say.
So I hope I answered that right.
Yeah. I like it. What kind of community involvement can we expect from you?
As much as time will permit. Like I said, I'm on the housing authority, involved on 3 or 4 different subcommittees, which we all are. It's kind of evenly spread out throughout the divisions. I'm available for folks to come see me, come talk to me. I'd like to see and figure out a way to be able to have more communication, whether it's in small group, large group, presentations. I know that Andrew and I both being in Ward 4. That's one thing I didn't know if everybody knows, that there's 2 councilmen per ward.
I knew that, but a lot of listeners may not.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
I'm on this podcast.
Yeah, so it's every other.
But I'm not from Norfolk. So.
Yeah, every other term, 1 seat in each ward is open.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did not know this.
Yep.
Andrew and I have conversations because we're ward partners.
Yep.
Not ward.
No, it's fine to be with Andrew. Anytime you want to be at war
anybody
with
can
Andrew,
be at war with Andrew. Yeah,
that is so easy.
Well, at least I know I have backup. But we've tried to figure out a way to do that, whether it's coffee at Hy-Vee East or whether it's something at the library. In the past, we've tried things, coffee with the council. It took off with people being there, and then it kind of dwindled down to just 2 or 3 folks that came every time, which is great, but we thought we would get more attention than that.
That seems to be kind of a trend in Norfolk when something like that comes about. It's hit, and then all of a sudden it's nobody wants to do it anymore. So I don't understand that.
Maybe it's something that, and I'm just bringing, like, every time we talk about this, a new idea comes up. Maybe it's something that we look at. We do it for 2 months and then go off for 6 months. Then we bring it back for 2 months. Or, if we can get engagement for 2-3 months, let's that was close.
The jar's getting full.
Close. Let's try to get that engagement and let's use what we can on that engagement and say, let's take it here. Let's take it, take it in our challenge,
And we've even tried to figure out how to just have topics, one topic,
right,
and open it somewhere, and just have folks come out and say, we're going to talk about this topic, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and just have conversation. It's not a do thing or die thing. It's just a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I would put that back on the citizens to come up with some of them topics and put the point back at us and say, we want to see this conversation.
Well, that's kind of the point of what some of the citizens have a problem with is, well, it's just the council running things and they're the ones coming up with all these ideas. Well, somebody has to come up with ideas. Yeah. If the citizens aren't doing it, then the council has to. Yeah. Otherwise, we're moving nowhere. So that's kind of why
we're doing what we're doing. Is like you at some point, and we try to push that out to everybody. Is like you can whine and bitch all you want, but you got to do something about it. Yeah. You can't just whine and bitch and not at least make an attempt. You got to do something. And so personal responsibility. I'm big on personal responsibility. Zach's really big on personal responsibility. So we got to start. And everybody talks about start local, go big, on government side. Well, that also starts in your house too. So you have to take a personal responsibility for yourself, and then you go to your family, and then you go to your neighbors, and then you go to your community, and then you go to your city councilman, and then you go to your mayor. And so, you could work that. That's how grassroots starts. And like you said, maybe some of our citizens, you got an idea? Let's bring it up. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
And every single one of you have said they're open to ideas. They want communication. Yeah. So
I've been trying to do this since Mayor Sue was there, how we can grow that and just say, we're here. You just got to come to us. We don't know how to get it back out to them.
Well, hopefully this podcast will help because we've said it on every single one of them.
That's what we're hoping. We're really hoping for that. That's why. Yeah.
I think it would be neat to see the topics that come up.
Yeah,
I think it'd be inspirational.
Yeah,
for us as a council, but also as the staff of the city. I mean, to have people come up and say, "This," I don't know what that topic would be. Whether it's about festivals or whether it's about the 4th of July or whether it's about anything
would be nice.
I think it would be fun to have the conversation.
Yeah,
and whether we could do that even on, whether it's like an open mic night that we do quarterly. If it meant that we had to need to do every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or at least once a month, just to have the conversation with whether it's a diverse group, it might be just a small group of people that were wondering about something and it came up in a meeting that they were at an activity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have the conversation. I think it would be awesome to do it with the school systems. Just to have the conversations with those folks too.
Definitely.
And I know we talk, or like you were talking about, and there's some people that probably don't want to come to a city council meeting and bring something up. They're afraid of it. They got anxiety.
It's not them.
It is what it is. And maybe they'd feel better in something like you talked about the coffee with the city councilman or something. And maybe they still don't want to do it because you got some other wards there. Maybe it goes back into, and we've brought it up on a few podcasts, like just a ward meeting. Like if you're in this ward, we're going to have a little town hall together. Like if you got, what are our issues in this ward right now that anybody wants to bring to me? We'll go fight our other wards, you know,
ward wars.
Let's go. Let's
do the blood wars. We'll have ward wars.
Let's take our little battle plan together and we'll take it to the city council. But I know it's not like that, but it's that idea, you know.
Andrew and I have talked about it. How do you get, for one, come up with a topic, and then two, come up with how to get that word out. We don't want to leave somebody out. They hear about it afterwards and like, well, why wasn't I invited? I don't know whether it's just put an article in the paper and something on the radio or on a podcast.
Yeah, it's tough to catch everybody.
Yeah.
We've had a tough time even just getting the podcast out to the masses of Norfolk, right? Yeah. We got quite a few listeners, but definitely when there's 25,000 people in Norfolk, and definitely could be more listening to this, but it's hard. The social media can only do so much. The paper can only do so much. NCN can only do so. Like
you kind of got to take it upon yourself to be informed as a citizen.
Yeah.
If you, and that's kind of what we're big on. That back to personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You have to be informed.
And word of mouth is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, once you have one, that word gets out, like you just said.
Yep.
That word gets out. They're like, hey, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't I? Well, then you become personally involved, and you say, I'm going to take a point to know when this next meeting is.
Yeah.
And I think the topics are endless. I think that there's a way to talk about everything from chicken ordinance to why we don't have butterflies, anything. I just think it'd be neat to have those conversations and listen to the folks. For one, I'd learn.
Conversation is good. People got to stop being afraid of conversation. Like the debate is good. A good, healthy debate. Like
healthy debate, yeah.
Or just, work through ideas with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's as easy as just you're spitballing. You're just bouncing ideas off of each other. Yeah. And then finally that one just, why did we not think of this together?
Or they get merged together. That's sometimes how the best ideas come about. Is like, well, you might have an idea, and then I bring up, well, then this, and then it becomes two totally different ideas become one. And it's beautiful how that works sometimes.
And it has. You see examples that happen all the time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Are you open to actively showing support to all diverse groups in the community?
Most certainly. That's something that I learned from my daughters. Me growing up in, I'll call small town Norfolk, we didn't have a lot of that. That has evolved over the years. And I've learned that from my kids. What you sound like on the end of this microphone is completely what you look like in the real world. That's opened my eyes to a lot of things. And there's a lot of good people out there, whether they're like you, unlike you, look like you, that can help you feel better about yourself and become a better community-minded person.
Definitely. What support will you provide in regards to minorities in the community to make them feel well represented, or to make them feel represented? Sorry.
I thought about this one a little bit. Is to give, and there's some examples down in my ward, but to be able to help them become part of the community, to be able to open up businesses, to be able to have churches, and religions and different aspects. One thing that I've learned a lot over the last 10 years is food diversity. It brings people together. Mm-hmm. I think it's a huge thing in culture. I'm Norwegian German. I don't know if most people never heard of lefse. It's a Norwegian, but it's funny how I'll make it now for people that have no idea what it is. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, just eat it. And so you learn from that.
Right.
You get an education about the different evolutions of how people lived.
Why foods are certain ways, why certain sauces and condiments and stuff like that were ever invented.
So you can tell by the way I look, I like food.
Me too.
I love to learn new cultures.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me.
They always say food is the one thing that can bring everybody together.
Yeah.
Food and drink.
Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Well, there's only one genre of food I'm not a fan of. I'll keep that to myself, but that's it. Other than I can't stand mushrooms, but that's it goes
that's
across.
A whole other story.
That's just a type of food, not a cultural food.
Yep.
All culture, You got something you want me to try? Yeah, I'm probably going to try it.
Yep.
May or may not like it, but I'm going to try it.
Yep. That's a good answer. We're kind of done with the listener questions now. We're going to move into what we call our political questions, but we ask this to everybody that's been on this podcast, not just the candidates. So it's more federal level type, state level type stuff. Easy questions though. Don't worry. I'm not going to, don't worry about that.
No, they're tough. We're going to hold you to it.
They're super tough questions.
Don't make me think.
Yeah, super tough questions.
I mean, Andrew did these before he was even if he can handle it.
Well,
if he can handle it, you're going to be just fine. How do you feel about where the state of our country is right now? And do you feel that we are being well represented at the federal and state levels?
I'm worried about it. There's too many unknowns out there right now of where we're going, what we're doing. Back to the transparency thing. I don't think there's any. There's so many things that we don't know about. We try to be involved as we can. You try to watch news, you try to watch stuff on the computer, you try to learn, but it just never seemed to get a real answer. On this federal level. On the state level, I think we do a decent job of it. Is there room for great improvement? Yes, absolutely. One thing I need to think that we need to have, and I'm kind of putting my foot in my mouth on this, but is we need to have some type of regulation in there to only allow people so many terms. Get the next evolution of the generations in there to learn. It needs to be a cycle where you're learning how it operates, but also listen to new advice on how not to do it. Corporate America scares me to death. I learned a lot about that, more than I knew about when we went through the COVID era, with watching my suppliers and the chain of command and where our products were coming from and how the price increases happened. I mean, that to me was crushing, and I think it was all devised. I'm not a, what would you call it? A
conspiracy theorist?
Yeah.
There's no such thing anymore.
No. Just truth seekers.
So Area 51 does exist.
I'm on the record saying there is not a conspiracy you can come up with that I won't be like, that's possible.
It's possible now. Yeah.
So I think that, we need to get a grip on that. Look back at our forefathers of how things started. Once again, I'm a history buff. So you can just watch the chains as history has come. People predicted it. It's happening.
I mean, they set this country up to just, you go for a short term.
Yep. You
leave your farm, you go to a decentralized area, you talk about stuff, and you go back to the farm, and you're never in it again.
Yep.
They never wanted career politicians, and it was set up one way for a reason.
Yep. Do you feel that the systems that are in place still work in today's time, talking about the two-party system?
I think that balance has changed. There's too many levels of it, from the radical to the soft part of what parties are today. And I think there needs to be a shake up there somehow. They don't have the answer for that, but I think that there needs to
Dang
be
it, nobody's had it yet.
Some change.
Someday we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
One of these times,
One of
in
these
the
times
next
somebody's gonna have
45
the epiphany.
podcasts, somebody's going to see 45 of these and be like, I know it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Well, I'm kind of worried about when I leave here. I should have my wife drop me off or something so they don't see me.
Well,
We're going back to the conspiracy stuff.
right.
But yeah, I think that we need to figure out a way to fix it sooner than later. And look back into history and see where it's evolved and where it's taken us, and get back to some of the local control and enabling people to make decisions about what we want here today, not just at Washington, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it definitely goes back to the term limits like we discussed. It goes, Vance brings up a lot about he calls it the uniparty, and we see that, and the infighting that happens, and the backroom deals, and it's just, something's got to change.
It's became a uniparty versus the uniparty the other way. Like I find myself agreeing with people that I should be debating on policy issues with, because we're more like I agree with a lot. There's a lot of people that I politically would probably never agree with, but on the other side of it is like we're looking at the greater issues of life, liberty, and happiness. Like we're both on the same side of this, as opposed to we could be debating the little stuff. We have to be on the same side for the big stuff because the uniparty is against all of us on the big stuff. Like we got to get back to that point where we can all be on the same side of the big stuff, and then we can debate the little stuff, like just little things here and there, as opposed to getting sucker punched from both sides every single day.
Yeah. And I think 20 years ago, we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But now today's society, we know what happened 2 hours ago.
Yeah. Right. 24-hour news cycle. Yeah. You find it out.
Yep.
And maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's been this way forever and we just didn't know.
It probably has been.
It's just brought to light.
Yeah.
But I think you're right in the comment you made before about it has to start here.
Yeah.
And work up. It can't start from up there and come down. No. It's just not going to happen.
It never will.
Nope. That's enough about that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Where do you see yourself going in the future? Are you enjoying where you are? And do you see yourself staying in Northeast Nebraska?
Absolutely. I'm having fun at 54 years old. This community has done great for me business-wise, friendship-wise, family-wise. I couldn't think of any other place to live. I want to visit a few places, maybe spend some time next 10 years in a little warmer climate at times. But this will always be called home for me. For me and my wife. We made that decision a long time ago.
That's good to hear.
And I'm ready for the next challenge. Let's go.
Awesome. That's good to hear. We want to give you 2 minutes uninterrupted to give whatever thoughts you want to the listeners. Get your thoughts out there.
Okay. For one, I want to thank everyone that's ever supported me, financially, community-wise, on the city council. The support I've had has been huge, from every aspect of the community. And I want to be able to take Norfolk into the next thing. One of the main reasons why I'm elected to stay on and to try to get voted in by the voters again is I want to see stuff finished. See where the next thing is going to take us. And I just think there's some unfinished business to be done. And I want to make sure that it's done the way that the citizens want to see it. And to keep fighting for the people of Ward 4. And, I don't think I'll ever leave there. I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I love my people. And I just want to be able to keep going and make things fun again, not look at the negativity and be positive. My mom always told me, always be positive. No matter what, you can change things by being positive. So I've taken that to heart for a long time. And I just want to keep Norfolk as a community growing and make it better for everyone. That's about it.
That's great. I mean, that's good. I like that. We're going to keep, you said positive a lot today. And I think that's a good theme to kind of end the podcast on, because negativity is never going to get anything done.
No, I struggle with it every day. Honestly, I really do. I want to be positive about everything. Yep. And I literally have to fight myself about that all the time, about trying to find that positivity and everything. Yeah. And that's not a cry for help for anybody out there.
Right. Like, it's just let's start dialing the number.
My daughter's a social worker.
We don't need to call her.
Contact.
We're good.
Yeah.
No, it seems like and I want, the reason I say that is everybody fights that battle every day.
Oh, like for sure. It's hard to.
You have to make yourself positive. Like you can't. I mean, there's people out there that probably are positive all the time, and don't have to worry about it.
It's a lot easier to see the negative than see the positive.
100%. And we talked about it earlier on the engagement on social media. Mm-hmm. All engagement on social media, no matter what it is, the majority of it is negative only.
Yep.
Nobody engages on the positive side of it.
And I think when you look at negativity, all it does is make you go backwards.
Oh, for sure.
So if you look at the positive side of things, and I think you move forward.
Yep.
And that's something my grandparents taught me that a long time ago. You can't look back, because when you look back, you look at history, but you don't look back at the negativity.
You have to learn from if you learn back, you have to learn from it.
And everybody makes mistakes.
And you can criticize through positivity. Like you can still, like, I'm not saying you shouldn't criticize something.
No, 100%.
Yeah, you can totally criticize something and still be positive about it.
Yep.
And it's just the way the world needs to move that way.
There is positive. There is something positive in every single negative, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can find something.
Correct.
I mark it up, and it's not an excuse, but it's another learning experience.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Well, Thad, you got everything out you want to get out?
I think so. You guys wore me out.
We'll get you a beer after this. But we really appreciate you making the time to be here today, and giving us and the community your thoughts.
I appreciate you guys doing this. This is really neat thing to do, and I hope the word gets out more, because it's really fun.
Well, the people got to push it out. People got to do word of mouth. I was just going to thank Ryan. He's not here. Thanks, Ryan, for sitting in the chair back there. Thanks to my co-host, Vance Neidig, and we will see you guys all next week.
Thank you.